Hey, it's Chris, and today I'm on a mission to find the best Windows-based Ultrabook. So if you're in the market for something similar, this is gonna be really useful for you because I'm gonna do like 95% of the research for you. Now you might hear Ultrabooks referred to as ultra portables, but either way, what I'm looking for is a really nice high quality machine that costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Now what I'm not looking for in this video is something that can game, something that can do photo or video editing, or something that does like 3D modeling. That's all stuff for a different video or different videos at a different time. So I'm looking for the best Ultrabook, not the best budget Ultrabook, but the actual best Ultrabook. Something that's light and thin and something that has a really great battery life and something with a full keyboard and a trackpad. On the spec side of things, I'm looking for something with at least a 7th gen Intel processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of solid state storage, at least 6 hours of battery life, but hopefully a lot more. And I also want a screen that hovers somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 inches that has at least HD resolution. Now there's so many ultra portables out there on the market, the first thing I wanna do is narrow down a list of my top 5 that I can really take a closer look at and make my decision based on that. Now obviously going forward as I start eliminating different choices, you might disagree with me, and that's cool, that's part of the process. So actually what I'd love for you to do is tell me down in the comments like what you would want out of all the stuff that we're talking about, and maybe something that I didn't even mention, and why you like it, why you want it, but just be nice about it. Now I already have some preconceived notions about what companies I might like in terms of who's producing the best Ultrabook, but I'm gonna look at places like Tom's Guide, Tech Radar, Wirecutter, and just kind of get a feel for what's out there, what people are liking, and kind of start from there. And actually right now I can already tell that one of the top picks almost across the board out there is the Dell XPS 13, so I'm kind of curious as to why. All right, so a few others that kind of keep popping up are the Spectre, the Razer Blade Stealth, the ZenBook, various Lenovo models, and either the Surface Book or the Surface Laptop. To be honest, I'm not really a huge fan of any of the Acers that I'm seeing so far in this category, or anything that's too tablet-like. That's kind of out of the picture for me right now. What I'm really looking for in this particular video is just a solid, true Ultrabook. But I have a feeling when I narrow this down to the top 5, a couple of 2-in-1 convertibles are probably gonna sneak into my list. The MateBook X from Huawei is pretty interesting actually, because the hardware really looks like a MacBook clone. So that's kind of shameless actually. It's like a shameless copy. I'm also seeing the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, and I'm kind of thinking that it looks like the embodiment of a spreadsheet. It's sort of like a spreadsheet that came to life. Despite the really great specs, it's just kind of too boring of a design for me. And wow, it looks like we're still doing that little red mouse button in the middle of the keys for some reason in 2017. Are those really that good? That's like way back from the IBM days. All right, I think I've got things narrowed down to what's gonna be my top 5, and these are in no particular order at this point. So I think the Razer Blade Stealth, the Surface Laptop, Dell's XPS 13, of course, the Asus ZenBook 3, and the HP Spectre X360. Yeah. All right, so why did I pick these 5 options? Well, I guess it just kind of comes down to taste. These are the things that I personally found most appealing of everything that I saw out there. So the Razer Blade Stealth, it starts at $899, but it ranges up to $1399.99 for the config that I'm after that I told you about earlier. So for the most part, I think this thing looks incredible. It just kind of oozes cool. But I'm digging the design. I like the chroma keys for sure. I love that 4K display, which also happens to be a touch display. And you can get up to 16 gigs of dual channel memory, which is twice the config that I was after, so that's cool. And there are also some amazing accessories that you just can't find anywhere else. Now the Surface Laptop immediately distinguishes itself when it comes to style. It's businessy, but it's also pretty fun too. And those colors are interesting. I don't know that I love any of them though, outside of the platinum color. So I don't know, I guess I'd keep it kind of boring, but this Alcantara covered keyboard, it's super unique, and it's got a touchscreen as well. So if you're looking for that, there's a couple options already. Noticeably though, there are no USB-C ports, and it also runs Windows 10 S, which is kind of like Windows' answer to Chrome OS. And so by default, you're probably gonna wanna upgrade to the full Windows experience, at least I would. So this guy starts at $9.99, but it goes all the way up to $12.99 for that minimum config. So we're 2 laptops in so far, and we're only now just starting to scratch the surface. You get it, right? Now the Dell XPS 13 claims to be the smallest 13-inch on the planet, and it features a bright QHD display, which they've actually nicknamed the Infinity Edge display, which is pretty darn near bezel-less on 3 sides. Really great performance, good selection of ports, but kind of straight-laced and boring design, I would say. And you would say too. Anyone would say. This Ultrabook starts at $799.99, but for my configuration, it ramps up to $1349.99. Now the Asus ZenBook 3 really has a style all its own. It's pretty cool to be able to say that about several of these options. Actually, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. I like the machined aluminum look, but I'm not sure that I love the gold trim. They tout that as one of the main features. I'm not sure that I love it. It's only got an HD screen, but it is very thin and light, and it's got some great power under the hood. It's got 9 hours of battery life reportedly, and I really love the quick charge feature, which gives you 60% battery in just 49 minutes. That's pretty awesome. With quad-core speakers and a fingerprint sensor, this is a strong contender that retails for $1599. Now finally we come to the HP Spectre X360, which yes, is a convertible. I know I said I was gonna try to keep those out, but this is in the list despite being a convertible because I think it's that good. Now you can get it with the stylus, it'll work with Windows Ink and a carry case, and some people might like that. I think maybe the best feature here is that it meets my config requirements at just $989.99. So I think I'm starting to get a really good idea of what I do and don't want out of these options, but this is gonna be really hard to narrow this down and choose just one. So I think what I'm gonna try to do is eliminate 3 and get down to a top 2, and then maybe pick my favorite out of those. Now, as much as I love the design of the Surface laptop, and it does look really cool, I think it has to go. The Alcantara fabric, it requires some extra care and maintenance, it looks like, which doesn't excite me. I don't want something that's gonna start fraying after a little while. And finally, it doesn't have USB-C, and that's something that I think I would like to have. Now, Microsoft made a decision to kind of live in the present and not worry about the future, which is USB-C, so you don't have to live the dongle life with this, but honestly, I have a lot of USB-C accessories, and I do want to be a little bit more future-proof. It's a shame, honestly, because I feel like this is really the best looking of the bunch. I think it strikes a good balance between sophisticated and sort of cutting edge. This is a bummer. Now, the ZenBook, I think, is the next to go for me for one very simple reason. In review after review, it gets dinged for having disappointing battery life. And also that gold edging, it just kind of bugs me. So now things are starting to get really tricky, and I think the next one I have to eliminate is going to be the Spectre X360, and I hate to do it. The thing is, there's a lot to like about it, but I think there's more to like in a couple other models. So there's not really anything wrong with it, I just like some of the other models a little bit better. Does that make sense? So that leaves us with 2 final competitors, which is the Razer Blade Stealth and the Dell XPS 13. And the funny thing is, neither of them feels like the perfect fit for me. It's just gonna come down to which one I think I'll like using better. So we've got 2 Ultrabooks left. It's sort of like Keenan and Kel, except Razer and Dell. Dude, I think the pros of the Stealth are that it has a really nice touchscreen, no matter what config you go with. It has really great performance, it has more ports than a lot of its competitors, it has a nice overall design, I really like the design, an amazing keyboard with some really cool add-ons like the Razer Core, which you just aren't gonna find anywhere else. The pros of the XPS 13 are really great performance, again, that edge-to-edge display, which is awesome. Again, more ports than most of its competitors, so they both have that in common, and a really great battery life. Now the cons for the Stealth are no SD card reader and a stiffer keyboard, so not as enjoyable for typing, and I'm somebody who does a lot of writing. It's bigger and heavier than its rivals, and holy cow, that bezel is huge. Now the cons for the XPS 13, or con really, the only thing that I see all over the place is that the camera is kind of weird because it's placed underneath the screen instead of on top where you would normally expect it, so it's looking straight up your nose. I don't really use webcams all that much, so that's not really a big deal for me. The other con for me is just gonna be the design. It's not a bad design, it's just kind of boring. And so, especially compared to the Razer Blade Stealth, I think that's really exciting, and this is just too businessy. So it's decision time. This is really a tough one. I think it's like 51 to 49. It's by the slimmest of bezels, or fattest of bezels. It came down to the bezels for me, really. I think I'm gonna have to go with the XPS 13. Honestly, I think I liked everything about the Razer Blade Stealth better except for those enormous bezels. Those really pushed me over the edge in the other direction. Now, obviously, your opinion's probably gonna differ a little bit than mine, so if it does, leave me your opinion down below. Again, just be nice to everybody that's commenting down there. And I've got these all linked up down in the description, so whichever one you like the best, go hit the link down there to buy it or do your own research. That's a little bit easier too, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.
About to leave, already packing, come with me, I'm not really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't